That's the border. That's Western Australia. We made it. Good morning, how are ya? This is the morning walk. Thanks for joining me. I'm happy to see you this morning because, oh shit, had some pretty bad news last night, literally just as we were about to go to bed, and can't be happy to talk about it. So let's go for a stroll and I'll tell you what's going on. The upside is that it's a beautiful day. The sun's just about to come up there over the hills here in Streaky Bay. Streaky Bay itself is looking kind of streaky and lovely. So life is definitely good, but not without its complications. Let's go for a walk, have a chat. I'm traveling around Australia at the moment with my family, and one of the big goals when we set out to do this big trip around Australia was to get to Western Australia. And of course with coronavirus, that all kind of got shut down pretty fast. Borders there have been closed for months. And so we'd kind of like given up on it and had doubled back. We were heading down the Queensland coast about 2 weeks ago when suddenly they announced that WA was going to open on the 14th, 14th of the month. And we were 4,500 kilometres away. And we thought, well, that's kind of the goal, right? Like, big goal was that part of the trip. So let's go do it. And so we jumped in the car and literally drove 4,500 Ks in under 2 weeks. It was such a long haul to get very close to the border where we are now. We decided just to put our feet up for a couple of days before crossing over. So we decided we'd cross over today, which is like the 16th. We could have crossed over, you know, on the 14th, so 2 days ago. Anyway, going to bed last night and just sort of picked up my phone and had a quick read of the newspaper, just scanned the headlines, and wouldn't you believe it, but there have been coronavirus cases in South Australia yesterday. And yesterday afternoon, sorry, first coronavirus cases in South Australia in 3 months. And yesterday afternoon, or yesterday evening, effective immediately, WA reimposed some border restrictions. And so literally we have driven 4,500 kilometres across the country. We've been hanging out for this part of the trip, I don't know, for like 4 years. And because we just decided to slow down and put our feet up for a couple of days, we've probably missed getting in by hours. Man, sometimes like your luck just runs against you, doesn't it? Makes me think about the Burke and Wills expedition, where this group of Australian explorers heading across the country from south to north and back again, back in the 1800s, had set up like this supply depot. So they'd done this dash up to the far north of Australia, they'd made it to the Gulf of Carpentaria, they'd turned around, they'd come back, and they missed rendezvousing with their supply party, their resupply party, by like a matter of hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it might be. It's like sometimes the margin is so slim, isn't it? And you know, it ends up being bad luck, but just by hours. Although, I guess the opposite is also true. Like sometimes you make it by just a few hours. And like you feel like, yeah, I was super lucky and just snuck in time. That sort of happens too. I guess in the case of Burke and Wills, like those guys ended up dead. So this isn't anywhere near as bad by comparison. Now what's funny about all of this is that one of our mantras on this trip has been like to just not hesitate, to just go for it. When we were leaving Sydney back in July, you know, this window opened and we'd been waiting to get away on this trip for months. And of course, coronavirus, everything was in lockdown and borders were closed and stuff. And then the border opened for this like fleeting window, and we dashed through. And like that sort of happened a couple of times, right? Like shortly thereafter, the border reclosed, and man, if we hadn't been across that border at that point, we wouldn't have gotten out of New South Wales at all. And the whole trip would have been shot. So, you know, the upside is that, you know, irrespective of what happens today, we've already gotten to do so much more than we could have if we hadn't sort of initially taken that first plunge and jumped right in and gone for it as quickly as we could. But it is a good lesson, isn't it? It's like when the opportunity is there and times are uncertain, you just have to seize it. Because if you don't seize it straight away, someone else seizes it. Everything changes, you know, and then suddenly it's not there anymore. But hey, like, no regrets. Regrets hold you back. So I'm not regretting our decision to take a couple of days here because, well, it's not too bad, is it? What have I got to complain about? It's absolutely freaking beautiful. And maybe that's the most important, is that, sure, who knows what happens today? Maybe we don't get across the border, but we did get these moments here, these moments of beauty in a special place. You know, every day is a beautiful day. Every day we're alive is a lucky day. So that's what I've got to be grateful for. Enough of my moaning. How are you this morning? If you're a new friend or an old friend, hit me up down below. Let me know what's going on. Love to hear from you. Where are you right now? This is Streaky Bay. I didn't tell you much about Streaky Bay. Streaky Bay is down on the Eyre Peninsula. It's basically west of Adelaide on the southern coast of Australia. And first Europeans got here in the 1850s. It was first seen by Europeans back in the 1600s by a Dutch fella. And then 1802, Matthew Flinders came through this area and named it Streaky Bay. And in the 1850s, you had the pastoralists who arrived. And it is quite an extraordinary region because the fields that extend out with all the wheat and crops is absolutely beautiful. And then you have these incredible waterways. And once again, actually, you know, putting things in context, one of the things we did here was swimming with sea lions. I'll drop in a few frames of footage because honestly, that's probably one of the most remarkable things that I've done in my entire life. You literally take this boat out to an island and you jump in the water. The water's freaking cold here because next stop south from here is Antarctica. And you swim with these creatures that are so inquisitive and playful and have so much character. And they just come up to you and they like, they put their nose to yours and they'll like play with your feet and play with stones and things like that. It was just a mind-boggling, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime because I could pay and do it again tomorrow, but you know, highlight of an entire trip around Australia, a highlight of, you know, of a lifetime in many ways. So should I be disappointed? Should I be upset that we were here doing that instead of crossing the border? No, that's just life. Sometimes we're lucky, and sometimes we're not. We just can't regret because we chose one path, but in future, the other path could have taken us somewhere else. Of course, it will always take us somewhere else. That's the point of choosing different directions. So don't regret the choice. Just get on and get with living. Because every day that big happy fella is coming up for us is a damn lucky day. We should be grateful for it. Whatever you're getting up to today, I hope it's a good one. I'll see you next time on the morning walk. Thanks for joining me and hearing me out. I really needed that. Have a good one. Well, we've just driven like 500, 600 Ks from Streaky Bay and 10 Ks up the road there is the border for WA. We don't know if we're going to get in or not right now, I must admit. Feeling a little bit nervous, a bit anxious. Doing all this driving and it's just unclear about whether or not we'll be able to continue the trip. You know, philosophical, if we can't get in, I guess we're just going to have to turn back and drive 500 Ks back that way. But it would suck. I feel like pretty gutted. Let's go. See what happens. Fingers crossed. This is all down to luck now. That's the border. That's Western Australia. We made it. You know what? Literally, as we're sitting there, we need to quarantine, so we've got 2 weeks of downtime, and we're gonna have to sit tight. That's completely fine. We're sitting there looking to book an Airbnb, right? And literally, my wife Marine's on the phone, and she sees that they've announced that they're closing the border at 6 p.m. tonight. So literally, we have made it in by hours. By hours. That's luck. That's life. Let's go and play in WA. Have a great day.